Hey guys, this is Dan with the Bullish Bears team. This video is going to be a little bit more advanced video on trend lines, trend channels, angular momentum, triangles, and pretty much how I day trade. You definitely want to watch, if you haven't already, watch my first trend lines video, which is a little bit more simpler, less chaotic information on the charts, and really kind of gives you guys the basics for how I draw my trend lines and how I set up my tools so that I'm able to draw trend lines effectively and really just covers the basics quite well and will maybe help you understand this video a little bit better. So, and those videos are private. These are videos that we're just doing for you guys, for our paid members. So you'll see here I have a TVIX chart and the S&P 500 mini futures. This is what I've been trading today. You'll see on the TVIX chart, I've got a lot of different up and down arrows. I have orange horizontal lines. I have angular lines that are drawing channels of support and resistance, and really just it really looks pretty chaotic at first, but when I explain it to you guys, it'll make a little bit more sense for how I trade. I'm not going to talk much about these lower indicators down here. I'll do a separate video on that. But for right now, let's kind of jump into TVIX and the action. So I'm actually doing this video during live market hours, and so you can see 9:30 TVIX was pretty much selling off, right? And it was falling through all these different levels. I had these blue channels already drawn from previous days, and I leave my lines up. If they're helpful, I leave my lines up so that I can go back and back, and I already have charted the stock. So I kind of am not surprised when I'm following the moving averages, which you should absolutely, again, watch my momentum webinar on how I ride the 9 for bullish plays, but you can actually inverse the rule of my momentum webinar and actually short things as well. So you can see right here, TVIX was a really awesome short. You could have rode the 9 all the way down to this point, which is about 10:30, where things started to change. And that is right here. You can see at 9:30, they really pumped the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 pretty much rode the 9 like my momentum strategy. And then it encountered some weakness, and this is kind of a general rule I have, but I call it the rule of 3. Whenever you see 3 points where the price can't really break through, you want to snap on a horizontal line right away. Even at the first point, snap a horizontal line and watch and see what happens. But the S&P was trying to break this resistance point. It couldn't, and then it started to sell. This pink line here is the 50 SMA. I use it on both my charts. If I just highlight it here, even on a 1-minute chart, the 50 SMA is an important indicator for me for looking for where to take profit or potential support and resistance. But jumping over to right around, let's see, 10:30, you could see this little drop in the S&P caused a little spike in the VIX. That actually caught my interest a little bit, and it got back above this trend line channel, which is a channel that I had drawn from another day. And so you always want to leave these channels on. And once it kind of rode this bottom channel, and especially when TVIX crossed the 50 SMA, it went on this nice run all the way to here from, let's see, 738 all the way up to $8, 807 or so. Now, I called out in the trade room that I thought my target for the day was 820, 825, which you can see it actually blasted through that after, but it did hit that target that I had bubbled out. And so, and these are just horizontal lines, and the reason I called that target area for space is because there wasn't really much resistance other than VWAP, and a little bit of horizontal here right around 775 to slow TVIX down. And I'm able to kind of look at both charts, the S&P and TVIX, and make more educated trades and ride the 9 and so on, etc. But what happened here with the S&P, 3 attempts to break, didn't break, and then able to find angular resistance to the downside. So you can see this trend line here is angular down. So that's resistance at this point. I then go down to pivot areas, and pivot areas are just areas where price goes up, bulls come in, momentum shifts up, and maybe bounces and goes back to that area. And you can see right here I drew this trend line all the way across here, right? And I had already kind of done that when this had started to run like this, and I couldn't see this part of the day hadn't happened, but just this particular run right here, I'm already drawing a trend line to try to find the angular momentum of this stock. So while this is happening, I'm now going to here and I'm snapping this trend line there. And so now I'm watching this triangle. I've got a trend line going down here. I have a trend line going up here. And this area right here, I'm going to highlight it for you, is an area where the triangles intersect. And I'm watching very closely to see what price is going to do. Is it going to go to the upside and try to test this resistance, or is it going to break down? Well, it broke down. And now I have, from 27.56 down to 27.52, and I wasn't able to draw this line yet. Okay, I'm just kind of reviewing what I had done. However, once it broke this area, I'm now waiting for it to pivot again. So when this fell out of this triangle, that was at 11.13. Let's go over here to TVIX and let's go about to 11.13 or so. There's that first big green candle. When it fell out of the triangle over here, you've got a big green candle right there. And then the ride the 9 strategy applies. It's above the 50 SMA. That's very bullish. You've got a 920 crossover, very bullish. And now you're pretty much riding the stock, and you're waiting for the next pivot area. And you can see right here, this was the angular momentum for this area. As soon as the S&P pivoted, okay, and it pivoted with volume, it got a nice little pop and it came up to the 20, I'm now able to draw a second channel or another trend line below this line. So I draw this line, and then I'm just waiting to see, is price going to go up? Is it going to test this line that we drew earlier? And it came close, but it didn't. You never got a 920 crossover, which would have been bullish. Price kind of pretty much rejected the 50 SMA. I got this red momentum down arrow, which I'll share with you guys in another video, and I'll make a post specifically more about the indicators. But the price went back down to test this trend line, and I had just drawn this trend line up when I got this price movement up. And once it fell through again, I'm now looking at VWAP, which is this green dotted line. And you notice when I hover over this green dotted line how this yellow line down here highlights and this red line highlights as well. Well, I use VWAP, and I leave the upper band and the lower band on. Okay, I know a lot of guys turn them off. I change my VWAP to green. I make it dotted so it stands out for me on my chart. I like it because the upper band in red or pink is kind of a overbought indicator, and you could see that price actually crossed it pretty well, but eventually stopped touching this red upper band of VWAP, pretty much being overbought, and then fell off. The same is true for this yellow, which you'll see in a little bit that this is a really good indicator for taking profit and or getting entries and exits or re-entries and exits. These are super useful to me. So back to here, S&P dropped below this trend line. I'm now watching VWAP as my next level of support, and then I get another pivot area. Okay, so it broke through VWAP. This was at about 11:45. So let's go over to 11:45 here. You can see right here, I mean, at this point, you can get an entry around 11 at 7:45, and now you're a good 50 cents in profit before you actually have to take profit. And, price started closing below the 9 EMA, which if you guys take my momentum webinar, that's going to give you a signal to sell. 50 SMA. This pink line was still support. It bounced. It made another run up here. It made this next run, excuse me, from noon to 12:25 because at noon it fell through this channel, and now it's bearish again. And I drew some horizontal resistance here. Hang on, let me delete these. Let's remove this. Let's remove this. Okay. So it fell out of this channel. So the next thing, as soon as it's falling out of this channel, I don't want to be caught off guard ever with trading. I want to look for stops. I want to look for places to take profit. I have the golden VWAP down here, but I need a trend line to draw. So I'm going to take my drawing tools, and I'm going to connect these 2 points right here. I'm going to connect this point to this point and stop. I'm going to draw it right there, and notice how it crosses and goes off into the distance here. I can actually draw this line. While this is starting to fall down, I might actually come over to here and just connect A to B right here. And even though, let's just say we're actually still trading up in this triangle, if I'm already kind of expecting this because it's bearish, it's got momentum to the downside, I'm expecting this trend line right here to break. So hop over here and connect your dots, connect your points, and draw another line, 1, 2, 3. And so this would be an area that I'd be looking to either, get a bounce, take profit if it falls through this trend line here. This is now my next target area, and you can see it actually fell right through it, and it hit that oversold indicator on VWAP at about 27.34. It touched it, and then it came right back up. But as you can see, this is still live trading. The S&P 500 is still bearish. I mean, we've lost 35 points to date, and TVIX is still, for the most part, staying bullish. The 50 SMA is starting to pick up, and we'll see if we get some green candles off of this line. But it looks kind of messy, I guess, but if you guys get in the habit of drawing these trend lines and finding angular momentum and just connect the dots, you obviously want to draw horizontal support and resistance where it's pertinent, but I don't really have a lot drawn here. I mean, I had this area. I was really watching this area this morning. Once I saw it fail, I was able to draw this line. And if we zoom out, now we can kind of see that this is in a very deep down channel right now, and price is pretty much trading in between these two channel lines, and you can keep scalping TVIX or just riding the momentum of TVIX. If you go to a 5-minute chart, you're going to see that TVIX kind of has a much more bullish story, where if you watch my momentum webinar on a 5-minute chart, the candles have not closed 50% or greater below the 9 yet, and that's going on since 11 o'clock this morning, which was a good buy signal. So you could have got a buy signal and got in at in the 750s, and now you're looking at 945 for a high and pretty much ride the 9 on a 5-minute chart. But back to the one, I'm always drawing trend lines and channels. I'm connecting points where price pivots, right? Where the stock actually pivots and finds a new direction. You then wait for the dip, find the next dip, connect those 2 points, and then you've got your your support and resistance channels and triangles. So you end up with all these different boxes, these angles that the price gets stuck in, and it's going to do one or two things. It's either going to break out of this triangle right here, or it's going to break down, and then it's got your momentum indicators like VWAP, 200 SMA, 50 SMA, your 9 and your 20. You kind of use those inside of these boxes, okay? But I'm constantly drawing them, and if you zoom out, it's going to look super ugly, right? You're going to have a billion lines, and you might say that gives me a headache looking at. But I do these channels on all different time frames, whether it's a 1 minute, 1 hour, or 1 day. And I'll just show you guys real quick. Here is a daily chart of the S&P. This is the overall channel up. Here's the me highlight this. Here's the top of the channel here. I'm going to make this orange. Here's the bottom of the channel here, this orange line here. And this is where price is at right now. You can see I've got a little yellow bubble highlighted right here. This is the ultimate stop, I would say, for the S&P. I would be super concerned about a much more drastic drop down to the 200 SMA if we don't hold this area. But you can see right here we're still above the 50. It's heading that direction. This is very bearish though. Actually it's dojing off the 50 right here. You can see it actually drop below it. You know, and the market's obviously going to be hitting oversold here. Nothing goes straight down. We can definitely play the bounces on the way down. But looking at the hourly chart, this is the current angular momentum to the down, and I had drawn this line here almost 2 hours ago when this candle was made, and was looking for that to hold. And let's see it on this chart. Let's see, let me highlight this and change it to orange. There we go. And we'll go back to the hourly. There you go. So another triangle, angular down, angular up. We had drawn this on the 1 minute charts. We had drawn these lines on the 1 minute charts, but here we are in the hourly. Look what happened when it fell through. And this would be, there's that dot. Oop, there's that dot, highlighted circle area that I would be looking. Now it doesn't mean it's going to land right there. That would be incredible if it did, but it could land down here. You can see right here, this is there's a lot of horizontal support in this area. This is the bottom of that channel, so I would expect somewhere in this area, if price doesn't get back up on this angle and ride this triangle right up this right angle here, then it's going to come down here and it's going to trade in this triangle. And that'll be a good trade for TVIX. Let's look at TVIX on the hourly. So we've got all of these lines which are going to help us make intraday moves, but obviously make the chart look like crap. So you can clean up these lines as you go along. I'm going to draw another trend line here. Okay, so let's go down from here down to here. Alright, so that's angular momentum up, right? That's the bottom support. And here we have, more or less, this is the channel that TVIX is in. Alright, let's highlight these, let's change these colors. And you guys can just do whatever colors you want. So we got, there's the bottom, or the top rather, here's the bottom. So here's the price of TVIX, and it might bounce in this channel for quite a while, or it could break out. But at least we have channels, so we're not being caught off guard. You can't just trade based off of moving averages. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna be surprised when it changes direction. So you can see right now it's riding the top of this channel. This might be the new floor for it, and then it takes off, you know, and people might be holding TVIX in anticipation of this move on the S&P to the downside. So that's the idea with this. I hope this makes sense. Definitely watch this video over again. If it doesn't, watch my first trend lines video, watch the momentum webinar. But that's really it in a nutshell. It's nothing magical about it. It's literally just looking for triangles, points of you know, where the price momentum changed direction. And you can see right here, here's a point, and then it pivoted direction. Here's another point to the downside, and you end up with triangles. You're going to start seeing this everywhere, and you guys are going to be less and less surprised, and get really good entries on trades because you know how to do this stuff. You can see right here, this is starting to roll up. VWAP is way up here. This is absolutely a resistance right here. But you know, you've got some kind of angular momentum to the upside, and you know, price may ride up along this line, hit the top of this triangle, and then drop out again. So draw your lines. If you guys have questions, you guys can always send me a message. But I hope you guys like this video, and we'll see you in the trade room. Thanks.